All right, I was mentioning earlier the cooperation between a number of municipalities and their state governors and FEMA and everything else. Michael Brown probably is looking at all this and says, boy, I wish I had that when I was running FEMA for President Bush. I like to joke, Michael, and I don't mean any insult to you or anyone else, that you were a target of a lot of criticism, simply trying to get those from competing venues and biases together, to say nothing of political parties, and no one would talk to each other, and you were sort of like monkey in the middle. That was then. Now you're seeing cooperation in North Carolina between a Democratic governor and his Republican lieutenant governor, between Republican congressmen working with Democratic state officials, and it's all going smoothly. Lessons from Katrina? What do you think?
You know, Neil, I think you're much wiser than your staff gives you credit for. Something you said in that last break about people coming together. Here's my theory about this. I think the country, if you think back 13 years ago to Katrina, and we think that was polarized. And now in this arc of history, we look at where we are today, and everybody is at everybody's throats, at least in the political world. I believe this sincerely, that American citizens are looking for ways to rise above that. They're looking for ways to help each other. They're looking for ways to do not what the politicians are doing, but what Americans have traditionally done, and that is help each other. And I think we're seeing that. So the worse Washington gets, I think the better flyover country gets. Yeah, and I think politicians in those regions realize it, or maybe just put their party labels aside and decide to honor the more important one, that is, as I said, being a human being. And whether you're a Democratic governor or a Republican lieutenant governor in a state like North Carolina, hard hit, no one really much cares. That what they care about is getting help. What they care about is that you looking after them and taking care, right? I think so. And when you think back to Katrina, I know we had the focal point of the Superdome, right? But even in Hurricane Maria, even in Hurricane Harvey last year, we still had those visuals. But I think what you saw was, and of course, there are certain aspects of your industry that is going to continue to criticize, the president, particularly when it's the opposition party. But I think what people are doing is saying, I've had enough of that. I've had enough of this, everybody just kind of, complaining about everything. Let's actually stand up and go do something. And I think that's what we're seeing now. Do you think that the beast feeds itself, though? Much has been said. If you look at some other networks, this one included looking at presidential responses to hurricanes. Much has been said of this president's response to Puerto Rico, but that was last year. He might have compounded that with saying it was a boffo job and all of that. Right. But I'm just wondering, shouldn't we be focusing on the here and now and this? And we could tear apart and get into the details of what happened with Puerto Rico later. Well, and actually, I wrote about that yesterday, and my contention is this. The president doesn't serve himself well when he's focused on something that happened a year ago and the methodology of how you count deaths. What he ought to be doing right now is talking about the great work that Brock Long, the current head of FEMA, is doing, the great work that the FEMA people are doing, the great work that the volunteers and the non-government organizations are doing, the great work that Democrat governors, Republican governors, I mean, as you said, it crosses party lines. But should you be careful about bragging, period? You know what I mean? Like, I know there's a tendency, and I saw this in Sandy, where the governors of all the respective states at the time, and I take no fault against them. They're trying to help their people. That's fine. I get it. But we later learned that there were problems. We later learned that a lot of people were slow to get aid, and a lot of them stuck in their homes, and there was mold, et cetera, et cetera. So shouldn't you be careful to jump the gun and brag about anything until it's all resolved? Neil, there's a very fine line between bragging and supporting. And what I'm arguing for is that the president should be talking about or tweeting about, that's his favorite way of communicating. What he ought to be doing is tweeting the support for the people on the ground. Don't be bragging about what a good job it is. Be talking about, we're giving them the resources we need. We're supporting them. I'm telling my cabinet to do everything they can to help Brock Long and give him what he needs. And I'm telling you that from a very personal perspective because, as you know, I couldn't get the cabinet's attention during Katrina. And I think right now what we're seeing is they understand. And, you know, and there's always good that comes out of bad, right? And I think one of the good that has come out of Katrina is that politicians at all levels understand that this is a four-legged stool. It's citizens, it's state government, local government, and federal government, and everybody needs to work together. And I got to tell you, if I had to go through what I went through to get these politicians and folks to understand that, then I'm happy to have done it.
Yeah, and you did a good deal. You know, a lot of people are saying they see you pop up in the air, oh, that guy, and all. I try to point out, because I've seen the memos, I've seen the updates that you were giving and the warnings you were giving when it came to Katrina and a host of storms prior. The track record on you is clear. You tried. You did great yeoman's work in the middle of political turf fights and all the rest. History, I think, was very unkind to you, my friend. Very unkind, and unfair.
Well, but you were very fair, and I greatly appreciate that.
Well, I had the proof. It's not a matter of being fair. It's a matter of just being right. The proof was that you were concerned and raised the concern to everyone all the way up to the President of the United States. That was then. I think a lot of the progress we're seeing, Michael, is because of what you did back then.
Well, and again, see, you are a wise man, so don't let your staff tell you otherwise.
Forget about my staff. Talk to my wife. All right, Michael Brown, thank you very much. Good seeing you.
You bet.